The purpose of forecasting is to be able to help people in business to improve the accuracy of their predictions and reduce or deal as well as possible with the uncertainty.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where in the world you're based. It's a pleasure to have everybody here on this call this evening. We hope to not only be able to answer all of your queries on the applied forecasting course, but also to give you a kind of indication on the level of interaction that you'll have with the instructors throughout the duration of this 6-week course. Nothing is scripted here, so we're depending on your impact, your interaction, and please go ahead, fire at the bottom of your screen. There's a Q&A button. Any questions, please, please go ahead and fire away any questions there. On behalf of the instructors, welcome everybody. Okay, so the applied forecasting course, as mentioned, it's a 6-week course. The first week begins on the 7th of November. However, Pasquale has very kindly prepared a few slides, a few preparation videos on how to get everybody up to the level of understanding of the R software, so that that needs to be used throughout the course. I'm going to hand you over to the instructors for a quick introduction, and we look forward to answering all your queries.
Good day, everybody. I'm Spyros Makridakis. We'll be teaching the course together with Pasquale Cirillo and Vangelis Piliotis.
Hi everyone, my name is Pasquale Cirillo, and yes, I will be one of the 3 instructors together with Professor Makridakis and Dr. Spiliotis.
Hi everyone, from my side as well. I'm Vangelis, and I'm glad I'm here today, and that I'll be one of the instructors of the course and waiting for your questions. Nick, just in case that some people do not feel very comfortable to start the Q&A, should we start by addressing some of, let's say, the most typical questions that we hear most of these kind of sessions?
Absolutely. Thank you, Vangelis. Yes.
Okay, so a common question is, how much coding is involved in the course, if there are a lot of, algorithms that you'll have to program in order to deliver your assignments and so on. So to say a few things, we'll be using R in order to implement the methods that we'll be discussing. This doesn't mean that you cannot use some other programming language of preference. In fact, in previous courses, many people have used Python or MATLAB or whatever they're comfortable with. We just have to set for a particular language to provide our example. So that will be R. Pasquale has provided some material that you can use, some very indicative examples of how we'll be using R. This material will become available 1 week before the course starts, so you'll have enough time to go through this material and get comfortable with R in case you are not very familiar with it. And although, of course, in order to complete your assignments, you have to do some coding. We try to provide as many examples as possible during the course, so you'll not have to figure out yourself, you know, how to program everything. You have some examples, and based on this example, we'll just ask you to go a step further and address some questions. So I don't know, Pasquale, if you have to add anything to that.
No, that's exactly what you said. So during our classes, you will obviously receive all the materials that include the codes. So as Vangelis said, so we had to choose one language because obviously we need a reference. So that was R, but yes, you're free to use what you want. And we can discuss the different details using the course forum, or you can drop an email, these kind of things. Maybe since I already cited that, the course has several channels for interaction. So there are course materials that obviously are there for you to read and to watch if there are videos. But there are the live lessons that are the scope is not only to teach you the topics, but also to interact. So please ask your questions. And there is the course forum. The course forum is essential, at least in my opinion, because whenever you read the materials, you have questions, you have doubts, you can ask your questions there, and we will answer your questions. And obviously, if you feel you can give an answer to a question of some of your colleagues, so feel free. So I think it's very nice to have this type of interaction. Yes.
I think one of the attendees wants to ask something. He has raised the hand. Is it possible for the persons to talk, Nick, or should they write to the chat instead?
We cannot hear you, Nick.
You're muted.
Sorry, would it be possible, Alexander, to put the question in the Q&A or the chat, please?
Questions.
How many hours of live lectures per week, and about how many hours on our own work on assignments? So there are 2 hours of live lectures. That's every Wednesday. That's where we'll be teaching live and showing you the slides and the examples and so on. Now the hours you have to study depends on how familiar you are with the things discussed, and probably also how familiar you are with programming in R or in Python in order to address the assignments. If you have a moderate experience, I would guess that 4 hours a week for your own study would be something reasonable.
Yes, but let's say that apart from the 2 hours of live lessons, then you can think of something like 4 hours for reading the materials to try to your own code the examples. I think that 4 hours is it's a good estimate of the effort. Then obviously you will see that every week there are compulsory readings, but also supplementary readings. So the supplementary readings are something that will take more time, obviously, but that is up to you. So you have to imagine that we provide you a lot of information, really a lot of information, especially in the supplementary materials. And we do not expect you to read everything during the course. We know that that is a lot, also because you are doing other things in your life. But all the stuff, all the materials will stay there available to you after the end of the course. So again, as I always say, we could say forever, but forever is not credible because you never know what happens with platforms. But let's say that you will have that for months and years to come. Okay, so you have all the time later to download the materials, the papers, the codes. So, and obviously that part is not what we count in the weekly amount of time that you have to dedicate to the course.
There's a question about whether the classes are recorded. The answer is yes. Okay, so
Yes.
we record all sessions, and you'll have, it will be possible to access even after the end of the course. The time slot, Nick, have we arranged the time slot, the exact time slot for the classes?
Well, the live sessions are Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern European times for the first 4 live sessions. The last 2 live sessions are programmed for Thursday at the same time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I see that there are some questions here in the live chat. So, okay, so yeah, it is recorded. So the classes are recorded, so no problem for that. So is it possible to use the results of the course for working with global trend? Yes, that's the idea. So, so I read the question first, otherwise it's impossible to understand what I'm saying. So, is it possible to use the results of the course for working with global trends and market forecasts? The idea is yes. So, what we will do is essentially to teach you techniques that you can use in different fields, including those. And one thing that I always stress a lot is that it is through interaction that we can give to the course one cut or the other. So let's make an example. If everyone in the course is interested in forecasting inventories, we will give more focus on that. If everyone is interested in forecasting markets, it's another thing. So, and that we can only know if you interact with us, if you ask your questions on the course forum. And for example, when there are the assignments, especially the final assignment, you can also bring your own data. So if you have a problem, you can share that problem with us. Obviously, it remains within between you and us. When I say us, it's the instructors. So it's not that we necessarily share your data with the rest of the course. So we can really work together on your problem. So that is to answer your first question. How to, yeah. Oh, so the answer is the same, I would say, for your second questions about how to include technologies and their effect into models. And the third one is how do you integrate results into decision-making process? There will be, so for example, in my part towards the end of the course, I will cover some of these aspects. So the answer is yes. So, but again, when it is the time, it's nice if you have specific questions about specific topics, and then we can be more precise in the answers.
But I want to emphasize that we're going to use real data and real cases. That's very important. Okay. And another thing that is important is that the 3 of us, the 3 instructors, will concentrate in different areas. For instance, I will talk in general about forecasting, about uncertainty, and how we can use uncertainty to estimate the risk. And then later on, Pasquale will go into more details on this. And Vangelis will spend more time with data, trying to show you how to use data to improve your forecasting accuracy and the uncertainty of your forecast.
There's a question also about, the depth of the course in terms of, going through the fundamentals to machine learning and so on. Question from Enric. I would say that the level of the course gradually increases as we move forward each week. So we start with some fundamentals, how you can process your data in order to facilitate the training of your model, how you can identify outliers, smooth your series, perform an analysis, to decompose your data, and so on. Then we'll have a very in-depth look in what we call statistical models. So traditional, let's say, time series forecasting methods that have become particularly popular in the field. And then we'll cover some fundamentals about machine learning. We'll mostly focus on decision tree-based models and neural networks and how these two types of machine learning can be applied for time series forecasting. We will not cover things like, deep learning in detail. We'll say some things about deep learning, how it can be applied, but given the duration of the course, you can understand that we won't get into much detail in this direction, but we will effectively cover all the major techniques used to apply neural networks and decision trees for time series forecasting. So this is something you will get involved. And I believe that, depending on how interested in the course you are and how much time you like to invest in the assignments, where you'll be basically tasked to create, for example, a machine learning algorithm that makes predictions, then you have the chance, given also the comments that I'll be providing for your assignments, to get into more detail.
There is another question about how, give an example of how we use real cases. For instance, right now, there is a lot of talk about a recession, a major recession. And for instance, I would use data, real data of the stock market to talk about the recession and how we're going to deal with the effects of the recession, what are the risks involved, and try to use real-time estimates of economies to go through this and assess the chances of a recession and what will be the implications of a recession with real data.
And we also cover a lot of applications like, using Walmart data for forecasting retail sales. A task will be to forecast electricity prices, which I think is very relevant during this period. And also lots of applications about how to identify and tackle risks with Pasquale. There's a question about how many students there are in the cohort, and it will be covering short, mid, and long-term forecasting. I think the first question, it depends on, it's not very standard. It depends on, how many students will be interested. I would say that typically we'll have about 20 to 30 students, and we'll do cover short and long-term forecasting. It depends on the application, I would say, because when we focus on making forecasts for supporting decisions for operation purposes, then we focus more on short-term forecasting. But we also discuss, how some methods can become useful for longer forecasting horizons.
There is another question for when will be the next course. Usually we have it 2 times a year, so the next course will be in about 6 months.
Yes, and we're in spring 2023.
Professor Makadakis, there's a question about if you could provide some, uh,
Yes,
details about the M
there is.
competitions.
The second session will be about M competitions. And I'm going to go through explaining each one of them competitions, how we did it, why we did it, what are the major findings, and what are the implications of these findings. And in the end, we'll talk also about a lot about the M5 competition, which was with the data, the real data of Walmart.
I've got a question here. It's not in the Q&A, but how would you qualify the course level from beginner to advanced?
Shall I?
Yes,
Yes,
go ahead.
definitely.
Okay, so I would say that the best answer is intermediate. So the idea is that this is a very flexible course. So our goal and our job is to teach you forecasting and how to use forecasting in practice. So we require basic knowledge of statistics. So for example, not to have to explain what an average is, what the variance is. But for example, in terms of programming, we do not require any specific pre-knowledge. If you have it, it's good. That's no need to say that if you can program in any language, it's a plus, but it's not strictly necessary. In that case, you will learn R with us. Otherwise, as Vangelis told you, you are free to use Python or whatever you want to use. But the idea is that by the end of the course, you reach an intermediate level with the compulsory materials. With the extra materials, then if you invest time in the extra materials, then you can clearly upgrade to advanced. But obviously, we have to take into consideration that we have 6 weeks, we have to cover a lot of topics, and we have to do something which is manageable and doable for you and for us, but especially for you, given that you are not full-time students, you're working, you are doing other things, so we cannot ask you to invest 20 hours per week on this. Okay, so that's the idea. But with the materials that you will find on the course platform and to which you can refer also after the course, and then you can for sure interact with us. I still receive questions of participants of 2-3 editions ago, and I'm very happy to share my comments, to discuss about this kind of thing. So this is I think very nice. So in that case, with the extra materials, you can really reach a very nice level.
Another question about if we will review some methods for finding and analyzing auxiliary predictors. We'll definitely say some things about how we can identify and evaluate the value added by some external variables. This is actually on one of the areas we'll be working when discussing machine learning models, which are particularly good in identifying connections between variables. So we'll definitely do that. If you want to go into more details and, for example, see how you could retrieve data from the internet or other data sources to make predictions, my suggestion, Enric, would be to work on this for your final assignment, because just to give you a picture, there are some bi-weekly assignments with predefined tasks. Basically, you have to work on things we'll be discussing during the course. But at the end of the course, there's, let's say, a project you'll be working on. Basically, you would identify a forecasting task you find interest working on, and the task is, to try to provide a reasonable solution to provide the accurate forecast. So, Enric, if this is something you find interesting, that would be good to be the topic of your final assignment.
There is a question about wild cards, black swans. Well, the black swans cannot be predicted, right? So by definition, we're not going to talk about predicting black swan, but what Pasquale will do, he will talk about the risk involved about
Yeah.
forthcoming black swans or
So
white swans.
my job would be, first of all, to make you understand that black swans cannot be predicted. So if someone tells you you can predict a black swan, then it is not a black swan, because the definition of black swan is that it cannot be predicted. You can
By
only
definition.
predict that, you can only predict that ex post. But then everyone is good to make predictions after the things have happened. So in that case, there is no prediction of black swans, but we will cover the prediction of rare events and extreme events that do not qualify themselves as black swans. So that is to say, events that are with very low probabilities in the tails. So we will qualify the different type of tails, what type of prediction we can perform. And also we have to, if you want to be a good forecaster, you have to know what you can do and what you can't do. So there are also things in which I will simply say you cannot make predictions, just read the horoscope if you believe in the horoscope.
Model selection, Constantine, will be one of the key elements of the course. We'll discuss about model selection criteria in the lecture, mostly dealing with statistical models, but we also say how we can select models, or better, let's say, optimize models when it comes to machine learning. And I think that this also covers future selection, because, when we try to optimize this kind of models, we basically want, both the futures used and the parameters estimated to be, optimized simultaneously.
But let me add something, Vangelis. What is also important is machine learning algorithm select the models on their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is something that we have to do, to accept in terms of what machine learning can do for us, and
Yeah.
how this is going to change the whole field of forecasting, right?
Yes, and these are, the limitations and all this stuff. This should, yeah, we will discuss this.
We'll discuss all
It's
of
not
this.
magic. Yes. There's an anonymous attendee asking if there will be live office hours. Typically, we do not do that, but we do reply emails. And also, as Pasquale said, there's a forum where you can post questions, or if you do not wish to post, you can send us a personal message in the platform, and then we can initiate a discussion there.
But there's a lot of interaction in the forum that we have to
Mm-hmm.
say to people, and there is a lot that learning that comes out of this forum, where participants can ask each other, they can express opinions, and in general try to put questions in the forum for us to answer, or for the other participants to answer.
Mm-hmm. Massimiliano asks if we will cover hierarchical forecasting in the time dimension. I'm afraid not, Massimiliano, because the time frame of the course doesn't allow us to also work on hierarchical forecasting. But we'll do say a few about the best practices in hierarchical forecasting when we discuss the results of the M5 competition that involve hierarchical forecasting data. But will not get into much detail into that.
No other questions.
So another apart from this level of interaction that participants on the course will have with the instructors, another huge benefit is the emphasis on hands-on learning by encouraging participants, if possible, to actually bring your own data to work with. If you can't, that's absolutely understandable, and we will provide the data. However, if you can bring your own data, by all means, that would be great.
Yeah, obviously. So that's very important. So if you have your own problems that you want to tackle, that you want to try to solve using forecasting, then that's, I think, the perfect course. If you do not have data because you are approaching forecasting out of curiosity, or you are just trying to learn and you don't have any specific problem at hand, no problem. We will provide you with the data. So there is no problem with that. So we will find ways to make it work. No problem.
In the previous course, some people used data from Kaggle. We had a discussion in the forum. I provided some relevant data sets, and they found some interesting applications. So it will be definitely easy to identify a useful application and work with such data.
But these days there's a lot of data, so there's no scarcity of data. There's scarcity of being able to analyze the data and make sense out of the data.
Yep.
And we have also all of the data of the M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5 competition that we can give you any amount of data that you want. So you just need to ask about data and we'll give it to you. Well, I don't know if there are any more questions. Should we say goodbye then? And we hope we'll see you in the course.
Yes, I will say once again that if you have questions, doubts about registration and all these kind of things, you can contact Nick, that is there to help you with that. For what concerns the questions about the course content, there is the web page of the course in which you can find a lot of information. But feel free to reach out if you have any other question about the content.
Yeah, as Pasquale said, please, if, by the end of the call, when we've ended the call, you realize that, I should have asked something, it's not too late, please direct all questions to me. If it's something that I can answer about the, the course and group discounts, etc., I'll respond directly. If it's something, more in depth, then I'll share with the instructors and we will get you an answer.
Okay. Goodbye then, and hope we'll see you in the course. Bye bye.
Hopefully we meet you in a few weeks. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Bye-bye.
day. Have a nice evening. Whatever.
Bye.